Good morning. Good afternoon. To each coast respectively. Jenenne, Macklin here, transformational speaker, wealth guide and catalyst. How are you? Hashtag, let me know. How are you? What state you're in? What's going on for you? I went out for my walk this morning. I do 4 miles. And I walk up the hill. I hadn't planned on doing the whole walk. I just needed to get some exercise. But it's true, if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll make progress. So I made it up the hill. And then I ran back down and I came upon this. I'll show it to you. It's a tribute that speaks for, it stands for what's going on the planet. And this is like a memorial park in Pasadena. This is actually Altadena. Pasadena is just a little 2 blocks down. And this is what was here, that the community put here, which really surprised me for Pasadena. The children, Asians, and I've been crying off and on anyway. And then this was so amazing. It said, for every Black child born, we will promise to provide it the same love, safety, and opportunity that our family has. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Yeah, Eric, you're right. Facts matter. You're right. There's 2 autopsies that don't match. White folks are getting killed. Black folks are being killed by the police. So to some degree, we're really all in it together. But it then becomes, what do you do about it? Is this enough to get the attention for us as a people to move toward humanity and stop with black and white and brown and yellow? Is this enough for us to actually step into humanity and recognize that we were all created as humans? And that, race was the first thing that divided us. Then the next thing that divided us was religion. Then the next thing that separated was politics. And then the next things that separated us was wealth. It wasn't always that way. We did that. America set that up that way. The differences, separating people, who was valuable, who wasn't valuable. But I guess we're at the point now, what are we going to do about it? All these structures have been put in place to separate. They weren't put in place to bring us together. You have kids now at 6 or 7 who already have informed information as it relates to race relations. So what do we do now? Malcolm X said, but in the 50s, that the black woman was the least respected, cared about woman on the planet. So, yeah, facts do matter. Facts don't change anything, though. Facts don't make a difference. There's thousands of black men in prisons. That's a fact. Prisons are privatized. That's a fact. Most people who are in that privatized position are not people of color, and they're making tons of money. That's a fact. Doesn't change the fact that black men are still being arrested and being put in prison. Those are facts. Black women murdered, raped, trafficking. That's not even brought up on the news. There's so many facts, but the facts don't seem to make a difference. So, what now? Okay, I'm sorry. I keep trying to change that back. What now? What now? I just want people to be kind enough to say hello. I walk up and down these streets almost every day. It amazes me. I look right at people, look right at them to see. There goes a sheriff, right at them to see. People turn away. I'll wave at people, they turn away. It's okay, I'm used to it. It's just what we deal with. It's just the everyday stuff. So how do we make a difference? I was listening to Jane Elliott. If you don't know her, she's probably on YouTube. She's a force to be reckoned with. She's anti-racism. And she was doing this talk. I saw her a year ago, I think, on YouTube, and she was breaking down racism for a group of people. And she does it with such laser sharp clarity about what she's doing and how she's trying to move people to see their own stuff. Because if we can own our own stuff, then we can make a difference. And this took 45 seconds, what I saw. But what I saw last year was like a whole hour watching her do her work. This took 45 seconds. It was a group of people, white people in an event, I guess. They had her come and speak. A lot of women. And she asked the question something like, those of you who are here, would you be willing to live with the treatment of black citizens, of our black citizens in this country? Those of you who'd be willing to live with that treatment, stand up. Nobody moved. She said, you didn't understand my direction. She said, you white folks who, are you willing to basically trade places? Are you happy with the way that black citizens are treated in this country? And if so, then stand up. Nobody stood up. She said, well, that just simply says that you know what it is. And you know you don't want it for yourself. She said, and that's fine. She said, what I don't understand is how come you're so willing to allow it to happen to others? And that was it. And the room was silent. The room was silent. How come you're so willing to allow it to happen to others? So then when I saw that, I cried, because for me, that said, white America, you know what's going on. And then I got nervous. I'm like, are you scared too? I'm like, we know what we have to live with because of the color of our skin. But what are you scared of? What gets in the way of you taking a stand? What gets in the way of you saying, wait, we need to change and do things differently? I mean, it was really perplexed faces. I mean, I think you'll find her on YouTube or go to Twitter, but there were perplexed faces in the audience. It's like, almost like, well, what do you mean? What, like we have no responsibility to each other? So it was so powerful because it let me know that you know how black citizens are being treated. Some of you, surely, we will not discount those of you, foot soldiers, frontliners, old timers who are willing to take a stand. And you know you don't want it for yourself, the treatment that you see black citizens in this country getting. But why would you be willing to tolerate it? Why would you be willing to tolerate it? So I've been happy, I've been pissed off, I've been in tears, I've been in pain, and now I'm fine. I ran, I walked. So now it's a matter of what do we do now? Where do we go from here? We've seen riots before. I don't look like it, but I know the Watts riots. I was there for the Rodney King, and now it is again George Floyd. Every time it seems to be a black person or a black man at the center of creating some conversation for us to have some different results. It's each death is an opportunity for us to look at ourselves and say, how can we do this different? How can we do this better? But it fathoms me when I can't get white folks to say hello to me while we walking half the time. So it's interesting to see where we are and then what we're willing to do, as well as, here's the other piece, social distancing. So now we can't necessarily talk to each other. So if you don't want to talk to me, you really don't have to because you need to be 6 feet away from me. So how do we then move forward? And how do we assuage the pain that we live with on a regular basis? See, no one really knows, I guess, for black folks, what it's like to live in America. And no one knows, except for black women, what it's like to be a black woman in America. Black men have their own plight that they have to deal with. Black women have a whole nother one. I saw the cutest little post the other day. It's a little boy about 7 years old with this perplexed look on his face, and he said, they always say there's no men in our home, and they always say we don't have any daddies, but they're always arresting our daddies and putting them in jail for 5 and 10 and 20 years for a little bitty bag of marijuana. So if you take all our dads away, then you complain that we don't have dads. I mean, there's such contradiction that we live under that no one seems to know, recognize, or care about. So what will it take for white America to be willing to be interested? I think that's what Jane Elliott said. She said, are you at least interested in knowing what someone else's life is like, in knowing how they have to live? Are you at least interested? And I realize some people are like, no, we're not interested. Whatever black folks have to go through, that's on them. Whatever happened in slavery, we didn't have nothing to do with that. That was that other generation. Too bad. So you've got such differences of opinion and conversations. I mean, our history's not in the book. They want to act like we didn't do anything. Most people know this country was built on the backs of slaves, that the histories in America brought us over here. Nobody wants to deal with that. Don't want to pay reparations. You pay reparations to every other nationality, culture, race that you needed to. Come to black folks, holding out. You don't want to do it. This could all be resolved. But it's amazing that this just keeps coming up. And I can only think in the divine order of life that this is the piece that we all have to come together on. Because it's not going away. It's not disappearing. And it gets heightened and there's more light shined on it what is this now? Rodney King was what, 1992? How many years ago was that? Trayvon Martin was what? In 2012? How many years ago is that? It's like every so many years or so, a light gets shined on it to see if we're moving any closer. Are we making progress? Are we sitting down at the tables trying to talk to each other and trying to understand? It almost seems like we're more willing to just turn our head and keep walking and just say, oh, well, they'll figure it out. It's not my problem. And this is where we end up, in this kind of pain. And no, I am not advocating the looting. I understand why they're doing that. That's white folks going up on the west side of LA and Beverly Hills and everything, and West Hollywood, tearing up those stores. I understand it, but that's not what I'm advocating for. This is about awareness. This is about our being willing to come to the table and sit down and talk and understand. You don't have to do anything. What's wrong with just sitting down and listening? Because we tell you we struggle, because we tell you we can't get jobs. Why is that such a threat? I remember when Affirmative Action came out, everybody was pissed off. Oh, they're getting special treatment. My gosh, really? I mean, everything that's put in place to give us just a little bit of support, there's always someone, I'm sorry, white America, saying, oh, they don't need that. They shouldn't have that. You know, if you don't want us here, give us all our money, give us everything that you had said. I don't even have to have it, but I'll take my 40 acres and a mule. And I suspect some of us will be quite happy to look at some other location where we could work together, where we can share what it is that we know, what we've learned, and build incredible communities together. We could support each other. I mean, I think that was really what God had in mind when he put us here on the planet. But when I look at this, it reminds me of, what is it? Every Easter, there's a religious television show that comes on. And, you know, Pharaoh and everybody's fussing and arguing. And they finally, Moses said, let the people be free, and they get free. They get out there in the land, and they've got all this great land, and they get impatient because Moses is up there in the mountain. He takes too long, and what do? Revert back to the old same behavior they had when they left. Start taking all the gold, building molten images in gold, and they're going to worship. It's the same story being replayed over and over and over and over again. Can we get a new one? Won't we create a new story? Won't we step into some different possibilities? And I really think a lot of this is in divine order because it's happening at a time when a lot of people are not working. So there could be some conversations. There could be some sit down in the middle of the grass, 6 feet apart, and say, tell me what your life is like. Would you at least be willing to listen to how hard and challenging it can be to live in America as a black citizen? Would you even be willing to hear it and be interested? And I know some of you are saying, no, I'm clear. But I'm trusting that there's a greater amount of you that says, yes, I'm willing to sit down with my neighbor. I'm willing to sit down and help. See, you know who may come help you. We don't know who's going to come help us. And I'm talking about black women. We don't know. With so many men in prison, so many men shot. And then you have all the good men, but the good men can't take care of all of us. We don't know. It's probably like way back in the day, it was the drag queens who started the riot back then for the LGBTQ community who came forward. So we don't know. You know, somebody could grab me and handcuff me and say I was doing something. I don't know who would come to my rescue. I don't know who would jump out of their car and video it to make sure I was safe. That's the value of my life and all of our lives. And that's the interesting place to live. I guess it's like in Africa with apartheid, just not as serious. Not as serious. So it just brings it to the surface. And we just have to ride it out. I have always changed the narrative from the very beginning when they said, oh, it's unprecedented. I'm like, stop scaring people. This is transformational. This is evolutionary. If we're willing to take the bold steps that we have the opportunity to take now, we could change some things on this planet. And that's why this is happening. That's why, again, the curtain has been pulled off of the poor systems that we have that are no longer servicing us, and particularly the hate in the police department. Now, any policeman hearing, I know it's not all of you, but it's enough of you that people just scared of y'all. It's like someone gave you power and you just figure you'll wield it any kind of way you want to. And if you don't have any accountability, and there's no accountability in the laws, which is why we need to be writing letters to the attorney Barr to tell him, you guys have got to address the accountability when it comes to police, then what difference will it make? We are living basically almost in a military society, which allows the police to do whatever they want to do to people of color, whoever they deem that they don't like, that's not good enough. I mean, a man is dead over a potential, what was it, either a bounce check or a fraudulent $20 bill? Do you know how many fraudulent bills there are on this planet? Here's the thing, though. It won't happen overnight. Maybe some of you know and some of you don't know. You remember the Montgomery bus boycott. Our grandparents, and they walked for almost a year to get change. So don't think it's going to come overnight. You got to be really to put on your boots and put on your big girl panties and pull them up for the long haul. Our grandparents walked. That march, I think, started in, 55 or something with Rosa Parks. It took a year for them to get results. A year they walked. So what are we going to be willing to do as far as walking for what it is we say we want for our lives and for our children and for the generations to come? What is it that we're going to do? And I'm not talking about black folks. I'm talking about all of us. What is it that we're going to do to ensure that everybody gets to walk around these streets in this world and they know they're safe? That our girls aren't going missing. They're not being snatched and nobody cares. They're being put into trafficking situations and nobody cares. What are you going to do? What are we willing to do? It ain't easy. And we have these moments and we get upset and we cry. We let it go and we keep on going because there's not a whole lot more that we can do except for to keep on going. That's all we can do. You push the sense that you're not wanted, you're not liked, you're not appreciated out and down. And then you just put your clothes on and you step and you turn to God because you know God put you here and God put you here for a reason and God put you here in this color of this form of this body for a reason, and you have a purpose and you have meaning. And even though everybody else on the planet may have forgotten the meaning and the value of a black citizen, you have to remember it for yourself. You have to boost yourself. You have to encourage yourself. You have to steel yourself every time you walk out your door. to walk on this planet with your head up high and a smile on your face and doing everything that's required of you. And that's how we live our lives. And we smile and we talk and we enjoy and we know how far to go. We know when we feel somebody pushing back. We know how to manage our blackness. And then we get back in our houses. And at the end of the day, in addition to whatever else we've done and how many other people we've inspired and how many other people we've taken care of, we just stop. And we feed our families, we take care of our kids, and we do what we have to do. And we go to bed and we say a prayer and we get up and do it all again the next day. And nobody knows, because nobody has to know, because it's just what we have to do to be on this planet. And we keep on going. It's never been a privilege for us to be here. It's never been easy for us to be here. And yet we keep showing up. So I figure God wants us here, huh? We keep having babies in spite of the men in prison. They keep shooting them, but we keep coming. And that's just my story. And I came from working class families. I lived probably a upper middle class life with cars and houses and everything. And I still have to manage my blackness. I still have to be mindful of police when they're riding behind me. I'm always looking to say, okay, where's my driver's license? Where's my insurance? What do I need? What do I need to do? I told you in live, the last time I got stopped by the police, I put my hands out the car. He's like, ma'am, you don't have to do that. I said, I don't know that. Why are you stopping me? And he said something. And I wouldn't put my hands down. And he almost got mad. I said, I'm sorry. Morning. Okay, there's one hello. But she won't say anything. What? Okay, so there's my gardener. I'm back home. Anyway, I think we're still in a great position. I think some wonderful things are still going to unfold for us. I'm going to sit down with any conversations that anybody has. I was reading, I do Tantra dancing, and one of the coaches came on and she did an email to all of us. And she was saying how she had to deal with her own anti-racism and how she had to look within her own self and how she had to train herself and how she went and bought books and began to read so that she could get a better understanding of just what was going on. And then she pinpointed some of the things that she had to focus on. I remember she said, don't go to them asking them to tell you about their life. Go do the research on your own. Go find out so you come to the table with something that you can offer at the table. So I'm going to go now. It's going to be a long road for us though, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. When they get through with Antifa, the professional group that keeps coming in, messing up everything, I'm waiting on the protest that I can go be a part of. Then my son and I will be safe because I'm not necessarily trying to go to jail. I don't want him to have that experience at this point. I'm not going to break any curfews. But we need to march. But more importantly, we need to write letters. Attorney General Barr needs to have letters from us regarding the fact that there's no accountability when it comes to the police. The last situation I heard that happened, the man didn't even have his camera on to capture everything. So it's really like being in a military country, but specifically for black citizens. And that seems to be in the order of black men, black youth, black women, young adults, then black adult women, and then we get to the children. And that seems to be the order, the picking order. But be prepared to march. Please be prepared to write. If you don't want to write, you can write letters. You can make phone calls. Be prepared to vote. We've got 6 months to make some things happen on this planet. We need to plan now for the fact that they're going to just get all up. Half of them are going to be talking about, are we going to vote by mail? Half's going to talk about, are we going to go in? So we need to start looking now at carpools. How are we going to get people to the voting sites if they change it at the last minute? How are we going to be prepared? Because that's what they did for the Montgomery boycott. They had carpools. When they walked off the buses, they had carpools that they would help take people different places to get to their jobs. And in the end, some people just said, forget it. They just walked miles to get to their jobs and walked back home. So that's the kind of determination. That's the level of fortitude, because it won't come overnight. That's the kind of I don't know what else they said, for determination and courage is going to be required. So you don't have to sit back and say, I don't know what to do. I meant to have resources. I'll put them on here later. I had resources I had like 5 resources. If you didn't necessarily want to march or be out there, that you could participate in, organizations you might want to call who are writing letters to try and get legislature change. There's another organization, I guess, if you want to donate. There are a variety of different organizations that I had as resources for you to be active in different kind of ways. Because this is June. We've got June. People were voting yesterday. We've got to plan for 2 things. If we walk in, how are we going to make sure everybody gets there? How do we get buses, like these doggone school buses that are not being used right now because the kids aren't in school? How do we get those buses and get bus loads of people on those buses to get them to the voting polls? That's what we need to be looking at now, so that we have it if we need it, because if we wait, we won't have it. This last election, you have to remember, I think it was Jesse Jackson who had to go to Atlanta and take the polling booths down there because they didn't have enough. So don't think this will not be a historical election. Don't think we won't have to work for whatever party you're on and whatever you're voting for. We won't have to work to make it happen. So in your communities or in your groups or whatever, we need to start talking now and making phone calls to leaders, to assemblymen, to senators, to our government.